Welcome to Triangle BNI. Today's show is brought to you by Oak City Tech. We we talk all the time about the digital world, how loud and crowded it is, and you need professionals like the folks at Oak City Tech to help you get through there. So not only can you talk with your current clients, but you can talk with your future clients. So if you go to oakcitytech.com, tell them what you're looking for. I know they'll be able to help. Hi, everybody. My name is Mike Manning. Each week on Triangle BNI, we bring you a local small business success story. If you're not familiar with BNI, it is Business Networking International, the world's largest networking organization. Our little slice of heaven here in the Triangle is Raleigh, Durham, and Chapel Hill and the areas surrounding. And each week, about 30 chapters and about 530 members get together. And our job is to help each other grow our businesses. And our small business success story today is Suzanne Jeska with MRN Web Designs. Suzanne is also in RDO5, RDO6, RDO6 is in, or RDO5? Profits in the Park.
It's Profits in the Park.
Okay.
Yeah.
They meet Tuesday mornings at Hope Community Church in Morrisville. So if you're looking for a good group of folks that not only are fun to hang around with, but also will help you grow your business, please take a look at that chapter. Suzanne, welcome to the show. How are you today?
I'm great, Mike. Thanks so much for having me.
Oh, glad to have you here. Did you and the kids have fun with 3 Fridays of snows?
Well, I'm from New Jersey, so snow down here is certainly different. I believe there's a blizzard up where I'm from.
I saw that where it's like 2 feet of snow in Boston and the
Mhm,
Jersey Shore got hammered, and we're
mhm.
worried down here if the snowplows are working for a quarter of an inch of snow. Yeah, I thought you would appreciate that.
Yes, we definitely do.
Alright, speaking of, web experts and digital marketing, folks, Suzanne is one of them. MRN Web Designs, they design, they develop, they manage your content, they maintain your site, all kinds of things like that. So, Suzanne, there's some industries where we think we can do it ourselves. There's a DIY world, and in your web design world, it's DIY. There's some websites out there and some apps and stuff like that that can help you do that. So, if somebody, when the show is over and they get fired up to build their own website because they've loved the conversation here, what are a couple things for them to think about doing first?
I think do-it-yourself website builders are good, especially if you're first starting out and maybe don't have a budget to necessarily build out, a website with a website design company. So what I always recommend is whatever you choose to do, make sure it's done with good quality. Make sure you have good photos, your content is written well for both a customer perspective and also for the search engines. Make sure your contact information is clearly visible all throughout your website. It's a big pet peeve of mine to go to a site and have to fill out a contact form or scroll to the bottom of the page to figure out how to email or call a company. So make sure your contact information is clearly visible in the header of your site. We put it in the footer. We put it on a contact page. Um, Clear call to action. I mean, I could probably talk about this for a little
But
while, but just
Yeah. The simple things though, you're right, is how many
mhm.
and I ask everybody, go to some of your favorite websites and just look for see how long it takes you to find that contact information. Sometimes we make it so hard for people to buy our services, don't we?
We do. And the fact of the matter is we as users have a very short attention span. So it's very important to make sure that you capture the interest of your user in the first 3 to 4 seconds. So whatever you're putting on your website or your web pages, it has to be inviting and just really represent the quality of your business and services. The ultimate goal of your website and really any digital marketing piece that you have is that your potential client picks up the phone to call you or fills out a web form or emails you, but just basically gets in touch with you to learn more about your services.
And we talk all the time with folks about um, what we perceive as great. Wow, look at this. I wrote this. I know 12 people are going to call me today and hire me. Generally doesn't work that way. I always tell people find that one good friend that gives you the honest truth every time, whether you like it or not. Just send it to them and say, "What do you think?" Don't guide them
Mhm.
anywhere. Just say, "What do you think?" And if it takes our friends 10 seconds or 30 seconds, or now I think I get what you're doing, but I don't quite understand it. Tell me that. We know we've probably headed down the wrong path, right?
You're definitely on the right mark there, Mike. A lot of times we'll evaluate websites. We offer complimentary evaluations. And so I take a look at somebody's website, and if it really takes me a few seconds to even figure out what they do, that's you're definitely missing the mark. You have to, across the banner of your home page, you have to have, a 5 to 7 word sentence that clearly defines what you do as a business owner, so that there's no mistaking it. Mine says custom website design and development, digital marketing services. Those are very clear on what we offer. And so as a business owner, you have to make sure that you're really clear and specific about what you offer. Otherwise, the user is going to be confused and go to the next site on the search engine. When I started this business, I dare say about 15 years ago, you could build a website, automatically you're on the first page. And because there was not a lot of competition, those businesses who had websites were found, and they converted clients. Nowadays, it's a whole scientific marketing effort to get ranked in the Google rankings, get a person to call you or email you. It's definitely a process.
And I wanna get to that in a second, but I wanna go back to the actual layout of the page. And we had, Jenny Midgley on a couple weeks ago, and we're talking photos and how powerful they can be. And
100%. Yeah.
in this day and age, a cell phone photo sometimes in a professional setting just isn't enough.
Yeah, I would agree with you. Although it is amazing now what the cell phones
Mm.
are able to do, especially the new iPhone. Um, Regardless of what how you take the image, is you can as a user we can all tell if an image looks good, if it has good lighting. If you're going to do it yourself, Jenny could probably talk to this a lot more. I always recommend outdoors with the natural lighting is always good. We prefer to use our clients' photos, but if they do not have good quality photos, it, I would not put them on the site. So we'll often use stock photos that mirror or work well with their theme and their branding, because that's important to do that as well. But you definitely want to have well lit photos and just good quality photos. I even think that even for just a headshot when you're putting it on your social media platform, have a good quality headshot.
Yeah,
Um,
and there's 2 parts to that photo. One is it in focus? First of all, hate to have to
yeah.
talk about that. But the
Mhm.
second thing is a lot of people do, especially solopreneurs or new people in a business, they'll nothing wrong with a picture of you and your kids at the beach, but that really shouldn't be your professional headshot on your website.
Or a picture with your dog. I love my dog
Yeah.
or your husband. But yeah, no, I agree.
And we try to talk about that and explain to them that this is people are a lot of times they're going to your website to see if you're either you're legit or how legit you are.
Exactly. That's a great point. And I always say you cannot tell the size of a business necessarily by the website, but you can certainly tell the quality of their products and services and whether they care enough or are proud enough to represent their products and services in a professional way. Um, and again, I always go back to it's a first impression, whether it's you meeting a person for the first time, whether it's you going to their website for the first time, or any of their Facebook page, their LinkedIn business profile. It's that initial first impression that you're making of a company, and it's harder to convince somebody after they've had that not a good first impression.
Whether they do a DIY site or call you within the hour to build a site for them.
Mm.
Once we get the site up and running, now how do we let people know? Hey, it's here.
So I mean, so digital marketing in general has many facets. I always highly recommend claiming your Google business profile. Google is the king of the search engine. They want you to be able to, they ultimately want you to buy their AdWords and pay for click, but they offer a lot of free services that help businesses get exposed and get found on the internet. So definitely your Google business profile. And then if you have a mailing list of current clients or contacts that you've made, announce it to everybody, announce it on social media to link back to your website, announce it on your Google My Business profile. It is a work, it's hard as a new business or a new website to really get traction and to get noticed quickly, but just make sure that you're constantly updating your site. Blogging is a great way to do that. I mean, I think businesses get a little bit scared of blogging because they feel like they need to do it every day. If you don't have time to do it every day, at least once a month, and then move to once a week. But it's really good to just make sure your content is fresh and updated, and that you're communicating it with your current client base, your contacts, and then on your Google Business profile.
And just can't preach enough in today's world that content is king.
Absolutely, yes,
I
yes. I absolutely agree. And you're writing your content for two audiences. One is the Google search engine or search engines in general, and the other is your actual client. So you have to be careful as you're writing. You want to weave in those keywords. You don't want to overstuff it because Google will penalize you for that. But you do want to have it in a way that the search engine can pick it up, but that it's also what your client is searching for. Google is all about the user experience. So a site needs to be visually appealing. It needs to load quickly. It needs to have relevant content that a user is going to find, and it needs to be mobile friendly or responsive.
Hey,
Those are the key
boy, and
factors.
you just that was my next question is
Mhm.
more and I should say less websites these days, but still more than you wanna see. They're not mobile friendly, and folks, if you're gonna create your own website, we all have to remember, I don't know the percentage of it, Suzanne, you may have that, how many people do their research on their phone?
It's over 50% now
Wow.
that do it on their phones. Yeah. I mean, we're all, we have a lot of time and we're working virtually. And if you're standing in line, if you notice years ago when you would stand in the line or be in a waiting room, people would actually converse. Now everybody's on their phone, which is actually kind of a terrible thing in some cases. But you have to make sure that your website is mobile friendly to the user. So they'll initially find your products and services, but then when they get back to their office or their desktop, then they'll maybe go to your site and actually make that purchase. But the initial viewing and searching for products and services are, the large majority is now done on the mobile phone.
Yeah, my kids are a little bit older than well, a few years older than yours, but it's the same thing. I would assume your kids get information the same way my 2 boys do is on their phone. They edit on their phone. They send a
Mhm.
link from some other website on their phone. "Hey, dad, mom, did you see this? It's really funny." It's all done on their phone and so what, 40, 45 and under? I mean, that's their world, right?
It is their world. So whether it's on a phone or a tablet, or just even a smaller Chromebook or something, so we don't our websites are not just mobile friendly, but they're fully responsive, which I think is even more important. Mobile friendly is great, but you do want to make a site that's responsive, and that means it's viewable on all types of devices, whether it's mobile, tablet, desktop, a 6-foot screen. The site has to expand and contract to the width of the device, because it's about the user experience and making it responsive and accessible to all users. You're not sure what device they're going to be using, as well as making it cross-browser visible. Not everybody's using Chrome. Chrome, Safari, Edge. We try to make it viewable and optimize it for the major browsers.
So you do a consult for people who are thinking about this, correct?
So yeah, so our consultations are usually with businesses that are growing who have maybe started out on a DIY website builder that you mentioned earlier, and maybe want to take it to the next level. They've had their friends or their relatives start a site for them, and it's not kept up to date. Or, I mean, a great client is somebody who does not have a mobile friendly website. And while we think that almost all websites are mobile friendly, you'd be surprised at how many we run across just asking for a consultation. And one of the first things you notice is that it's not mobile friendly. So absolutely, we offer a complimentary evaluation with a potential client, or just if somebody has questions or they want some direction. And if we can't help them, if they are not in a position to actually make an investment on a nice website, we'll kind of help and steer them, in the right direction, so that maybe when they're eventually ready or their business starts to grow, then they've often come back to us. You know.
And my coaching partner, Trinity, one of her huge pet peeves is she goes to your website and it's contact information and she has to type it back in versus just touch that link and it goes right where she wants it to go, whether it's to call you or to send you a quick email. Are
Mhm.
most people going to that as well?
They are. And what I've actually we have on our site is I actually have a calendar application that's installed on our website that someone can actually just make an appointment on my website, and they can, have a 15-minute call, a 30-minute call, 60-minute in-person consultation. That is actually saved me a lot of time from going back and forth emailing, what's a good date? This date doesn't work. Does it work in your schedule? So I'll usually just kind of send out a couple of dates and they'll say, please go to my online calendar and schedule a time that's convenient for you. And I've noticed that business owners in general are starting to use that more automated online scheduling with their clients.
One of the neat things about doing this show is I love different and firsts, and I believe we'll get to your first in a minute. I believe you're you have a first for the show, but we'll get to that in a minute because I want you to
Okay.
think about, wow, I've done so many great things. What could Mike possibly be talking about? I like different. You are a female business owner. You came out of the
Yes.
corporate world, started your company about 16 years ago.
Mhm.
Tell me how you built the timeline. Well, let's start with why did you do this? You were at AT&T, you were a district
Mhm.
manager, it just screams, "Hey, I wanna start my own web design company," right?
If any, I have to say, Mike, if anybody told me this, 20 years ago or when I was graduating college, I would never have pictured myself. I mean, I always definitely had that drive to get into upper management. I guess maybe that entrepreneurial aspect of my personality. But I was doing really well at AT&T when I was there. I went there a year after college. I started out at Sprint first, and then I went to AT&T. I was a district manager before I was 30, and really, really loved working with the company. They put me through my master's program, um, but then I started having a family, and as a woman, it's really hard to do both. And so I made the decision. My husband and I made the decision at the time that I would take some time off and concentrate on raising my family. And it's something I have to say, as a mom and as a professional woman, I never have looked back and regretted it. I do feel at this point, I'm kind of I'm into my second career, really growing the company over the last 5 years, and a great sense of satisfaction in seeing that grow too. I was fortunate; I was able to keep up with my skills while I raised my family. I was always interested in technology. When I was at AT&T, we had an intranet that I led a team of people, so I had some exposure into it. And then I started dabbling on my own. My daughter was in a gymnastics, went to a gymnastics school, and I was starting to dabble in, some web development. And they asked me if I could, design a website for them, and I said, "Oh, I don't know, I can try." And I think I maybe charged them $200 or $300 to put up my first website. I mean, we're talking like 20 years ago, and they really liked it. And then I had the school asked me if I could, help them out, and then our church asked me if I could help them out. And I thought to myself, wow, maybe this is, maybe there's something about this. I mean, I've always enjoyed and loved learning about technology, keeping up with, digital trends, and always reading up about it. And it was something that was always interesting because you deal with very different industries all the time. So it's nothing's the same.
One of the
And so, yeah, so then I started, I mean, it was kind of a hobby, I would say, while I was raising my kids.
a
I would make a little bit, but
and I'm glad you got time to do that because the kids
mhm.
grow so fast, but that's a whole nother podcast we can talk about.
Yeah.
One of the things that I'm always intrigued by is the amount of time and money people spend to come up with their company name. I mean, sometimes you'll see this word and it's either Greek or Latin, and you meet somebody
Mhm.
in the company. How'd you come up with that? Well, it's this Latin word. It means 18 different things that we stand for. It's like, no, but nobody can remember it. So do tell, I believe I know this story, but do tell how you came up with MRN.
So I originally wanted to call my company Panther Web Designs because I was a Pitt Panther graduate.
Yes.
And luckily, I followed what I always tell my clients to do is before you actually officially name your business, make sure you see if the domain is available.
Hmm.
And somebody had already owned that domain. So I just started thinking about it, and um, I really liked the gap symbol because it's a very short, very simple looking symbol. And so I actually named my company after my children, Michael, Rachel, and Nicole, because really they're why I did it, and I do it, and just um, My family is very important to me, and it's a passion, and so that's where MRN Web Designs comes from. It's Michael, Rachel, Nicole.
And looking at your, on your website the other day, getting ready for the show, looking at your
Mhm.
team, Rachel and Nicole are part of the team, right?
They are. It's interesting that they actually. So Rachel's actually graduated now. Nicole is still in school. Nicole is actually my youngest is at NC State's School of Design, so she's very artsy. So she's done some graphics work for me, and both of them on their time off, they help me out. Rachel was helping me out with office work and some of my social media, and they were cute. They're both like, "Can we get on your website?" So of course I put them on there.
What I like about, again, going back to the different, because I know what the old white guy life is like for the most part, right?
Mhm.
And so I love the moms that have daughters that can show them, "Hey, you can do this if you want to." I mean, you got to plan, you got to put some pieces together and know what you're doing, but you can build this business and a family. So I love those stories for your daughters to realize, you know what, mom, I can do just about anything I want to.
Well, and it's great that you do mention that, Mike, because my best friend Mary and I from New Jersey, we raised our kid. Our kids are the same age, and we raised them together. She has two girls. I have two girls and a boy. She actually has three girls. And our kids have told us recently that they admired both of us, that we were able to do it. We were both able to work and keep our skills up to date, but take the time to raise our family. So it is definitely a good way to show your own kids that it's possible. And I always say that as a woman and as a mom, you can have it all, but you just can't always have it at the same time.
Yeah, and that's to be expected. All of a
Mhm.
sudden you got, because it's one thing if well, when you bring home, oh, say, okay, so, and your husband's name is Dave, so you 2 bring home
Right.
Michael. It's like, okay,
Mhm.
we're parents for the first time, we kinda get in a little groove, and then, "Oh, wait, we're bringing Rachel home tomorrow. Ooh, so now we go from a zone defense to man to man. You get
Oh
Michael, I'll
yeah, my
take Rachel
husband
by
always
s."
says that.
Yeah, and then all of a sudden you show up with, then Nicole shows up, you're like, "Oh, we're outnumbered here." And that changes life, that changes plans and paths and
Mhm.
timelines and everything. But you're right, and that's about, I'm a huge family person, so for you to be able to do both of those, I think is wonderful for you, but I think it's just very cool for your daughters to see that.
Well, and I was always very fortunate. I should give you mentioned my husband. If it wasn't for my husband Dave, I would never have been able to do what I'm doing now. Um, I mean, we supported each other when I was homestaying and raising the kids,
Mm,
but even over the past 5 years, I put in a ton of hours right now, and I could not do it
mhm.
without his support. I mean, it's really a team effort, and you kind of have to take time with each other and just build. He spent a lot of the majority building his career while our kids were growing up, and he has a great job. And then now I'm kind of building it, and he just wants it to grow so that he can retire soon.
There you go. And you're trying to get him to the lifestyle he deserves to live by, right? Now,
Exactly.
what country or heritage is Jeska?
So my husband's family is Polish, actually.
Mm.
They come from a Polish background.
I figured as much. I had that, either that or
Mhm.
Czechoslovakia, but something like that, yeah.
Yeah, and I have to say, I think we're probably the only Jessicas. We were the only Jessicas in New Jersey. I think he has a cousin down here now. Mhm.
And how often do people just butcher that name?
Ah, that's a very good question, Mike, because I can't tell you how many times I am called Jessica
Oh,
instead of Suzanne. Because I'll introduce myself as Suzanne Jeska. They don't even hear the Suzanne part, and they immediately start calling me Jessica.
I didn't even think about, that's not where I was going
So
with the question, but that's
yeah,
even
so
better.
yeah, and the thing is, like, so somebody, I'll go in to a restaurant and they'll be like, "Oh, what's the name under?" And I don't even say the last name. I just spell it Jeska.
Yeah.
It's much easier.
Yeah, it's kinda like going into a restaurant. "Oh, yeah, can you give us a name?" Well, I would like to give you Mike, but there's probably 8 others here, so you come up with different names, but, I don't
Mhm.
believe you married from a normal last name, right? Your maiden name?
Oh, my maiden name.
Yeah.
Yes, my maiden name is Murray, which
Yeah,
was a lot easier
piece
to
of cake,
say.
yep, yep. No issues
And I
there, yeah.
no issues at all there. So
Do
that yeah,
you
my husband and I often joke about that.
do you know
So
any Oh, go ahead.
my daughters also my daughters complain about the same thing. They'll always tell me that too.
Yeah.
Mm.
Do you know any Polish? Can you speak any?
No, I
Okay.
cannot.
All right. I have a friend of mine I went to high school with, and her nephew calls her dad Jodic because they're
I have
Polish.
actually heard that
Yep.
word. My father-in-law,
Yep.
yes,
That
I
is
recognize that word.
that is grandfather in Polish is Jodic. So there's your lesson for
Mm,
today. All right.
yes.
So you and Dave, one of my favorite questions to ask on the show is how did you and Dave meet? And do you both tell the story the same way?
Oh, that's a good question. Dave and I met in college. We are actually going to be married 29 years this year,
Oh,
believe
you're
it or not.
you're young.
So we met in college at the gym. He was a trainer at the gym. It was called Forbes Fitness at the University of Pittsburgh, and that's where we met.
And where was the first date?
At an Italian restaurant. Well, I guess you know what, you could probably argue what the first date was. He invited me to tailgate for a football game. I guess technically that may have been our
Mm.
first date. Um, but as far as like first official date, we went to an Italian restaurant and then went out to see a movie. I don't know if you remember this one called Harlem Nights
Oh
with
yeah.
Eddie Murphy and Arsenio Hall
Yep.
back in the day.
Oh yeah.
And we had just had a hard workout at the gym before that. And I remember when Dave was sitting in the movie theater and his legs were just cramping up and he couldn't sit for the whole movie during there.
Wuss.
Yeah.
Now, how did you literally meet? Did someone introduce you?
Well, I was dating another guy who took me to the gym and introduced me to Dave. So
Nice.
yes,
And
talk about embarrassing me on a podcast here, Mike.
so how when did that relationship end? And when how quick
It
after
wasn't
that?
really it wasn't really that serious. So it was
That's good. I like that. The guy never saw it coming. Does he know you're happily married now for 29 years?
I don't know. I didn't keep in touch.
Oh, so good. I love those stories. Those are so good. One of your jobs that I was intrigued by, you were an adjunct professor at County College of Morris.
Yes. One of
Where
my
is
favorite
that?
so I grew up in Morris County, New Jersey, a little town called Chester. And then my husband and I raised our family in Flanders, which is part of Mount Olive, all in Morris County.
Mm,
So I did not move that far from home. My father did the same thing. He was born in Morristown, which is a town in Morris County, and then moved to the next town over. And I used to always laugh at him. I'm like, Dad, you never left. You never left too far from home. And then I did the exact same thing. In fact, moving down here to North Carolina was really the first big move that I've done in my entire life, and uh, we really do love it down here. Um, but yeah.
And so what got you guys to Raleigh? Because oh, by the way, let's back up. So you went to the University of Pittsburgh. Are you like a diehard Pitt fan, graduate?
So I would say that especially my husband is probably more of a diehard fan since we moved down here, and this whole area is a big college area.
Yes.
And so we've gone to some of the football. We went to the Duke Pitt football game when they came here. We've since gotten all the attire. We're part of the Pitt fan club. Our son though went to Virginia Tech, so we've seen them play Virginia Tech. But yeah, I mean, I think we're probably getting more of a Pitt fan. But yeah,
Especially now that they're in the ACC, right?
yes,
I mean,
yeah,
that helped.
yeah,
And
yeah.
now the picture on your Facebook page, everybody's in Virginia Tech garb. Is that because of Michael?
That is because of Michael.
All
Yes.
right.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. He was. I mean, I don't know if you've ever been to a football game at Virginia Tech.
have
It
not.
is. It is an incredible thing to do. Everybody is, jumping up and down the stadium when the players rush in. It's a really big football school. And when I was at Pitt, I went to every single football game and probably every single basketball game as well. So I really love watching sports.
Now basketball is a good time went back in the Big East. That was
Mhm.
good stuff. Football, eh. But basketball,
Yeah.
you saw some
Definitely.
really good college basketball, right?
Yes. Oh,
Yeah.
I saw Jerome Lane smash the backboard of one of the Pitt games. Yeah, it was really good. I thought about your previous question that you were asking about my adjunct
Yes,
professorship
well,
at the county college.
I just kinda do this and do that through the show, so we usually get back stuff. But real quick, so what brought you to Raleigh?
So my husband worked for a company called Pearson Education, which was they are UK based, but they have a big presence in the New Jersey and New York area. And then they he's really spent most of his career commuting. I would say 45 minutes to an hour and a half. And the last move was he was going to be commuting to Hoboken, New Jersey, which was probably a good hour and a half each way. And so we've always wanted to come down south. We were thinking of maybe the Atlanta area, but then we'd always vacation in the Outer Banks. We probably spent 6 or 7 summers vacationing in the Outer Banks. And so there was an opportunity that Pierce was opening up an office in the Raleigh area. And so we talked about it. It was a difficult decision at the time because our girls were in high school. But it was a family decision. Um, and we made the decision and really have not looked back. So Pearson really brought us down here. Dave has since left Pearson and works for a company called LexisNexis now.
Yep. Now, daughters in
His
high
wife's turned on.
school and you're asking them to move. My wife is an Air Force brat, and her dad got rotated to Germany the summer between her junior and senior year of high school, and her folks moved her to Germany, and she made their life miserable for a year. Did your daughters take it well?
Well, you know what? I talking to them after the fact, I think it was harder for them than we realized.
Mm,
Um, my my middle daughter Rachel was also the same age as your wife when she moved. She was going into her senior year of high school, and then our youngest Nicole was going into her freshman year. And the girls are really close, and they still are. And they decided that if we were going to move, that they would want to try, be in a high school together
mm.
and kind of do that transition. Um, and then Rachel also felt like she was going to be going to college the following year. That she understood it. And honestly, they were both really good about it because I think if they had given us pushback or they were hesitant, we probably would not have made the move. I do know it was hard. It was hard to move to this area and be a senior in high school and try to fit in. So I do give her a lot of credit for that.
Have you found the small New Jersey community that exists in the Triangle? Because everybody from up north is moving down here, it feels like.
I would definitely say the New Jersey, New York community. My whole neighborhood. We live over here in the Morrisville Cary line, and I would say pretty much our whole street is from the north.
Yeah,
Uh,
it's tough to find anybody that's from here anymore.
yeah, but everybody's. We moved into a wonderful neighborhood. Everybody's so friendly. We have great friends. We do dinner parties, and it's just really nice.
So let me guess the flags that are flying in your neighborhood: Jets, Giants, Mets, Yankees, Rangers, right?
And my husband is a big Pittsburgh Penguin fan. He's
There
my
you go.
son.
Oh, they
Yep,
travel well.
Penguin Steelers.
Yep.
I'm a Giants fan. I'm a big New York Mets fan.
Ooh,
Um,
boy.
in
Well,
fact, my screensaver on my computer is Mets. I don't know if you can see back in my bookshelf. Well, I ordered these on Amazon. They were supposed to be bigger. One is of Citi Field, the new stadium, and then one is the old Shea Stadium.
there you go. There you go. I
Mhm.
like that. I mean, it's you can tell a Mets fan. They're miserable, but they're loyal. I'll give you that
They
much.
are. Our dog is named Shea after
Nice.
Shea Stadium.
Yep. I like that.
Mhm.
So real quick, back to being an adjunct professor. Did you enjoy that?
I did. I really did love doing that. It's always, I guess maybe this is where my middle daughter, Rachel, gets it from. She is a middle school math teacher right now. She graduated last year. And I don't know, I've always enjoyed teaching. I taught confirmation classes for probably 20 years. And I had a friend of mine who they were looking for somebody to teach Microsoft Windows products in the business department at the County College of Morris. And I said, sure, I'll give it a try. And so before I knew it, I was teaching 4 or 5 classes part time. But then it actually started to take away from my business, which was kind of hard.
Mm.
So I had to really kind of make a choice. And really, when we moved down here, that decision was kind of made for me. But it was a hard balance because while I loved teaching the kids and inspiring them, and I think it definitely helped being in the workforce and then being able to bring that to the classroom. Um, it's hard because you don't make a lot as an adjunct professor, so it's kind of a balance. I think when I retire, that is something that I definitely would love to get back into.
I think in Latin, that's what adjunct means. We're not gonna pay you much, but we're happy to have you here, so.
You're probably right there, Mike.
I really do, because nobody knows what that word means, but they see it as
It
like,
sounds very impressive.
"Oh, it does, doesn't it?"
It just means part-time.
Yep, it does. It just means we're happy to have you. Here's your $8. Here's your classroom.
Yeah.
Have at it. Yeah, so.
It's a lot. I have to tell you, it's a lot of work to be a teacher.
People have, yeah.
Mm.
I hate when teachers get dinged on. We get the whole summer off or this, that, and the other. It's like, hey, they're putting up with your snot-nosed kid because so just give them a break on that. You also coach softball in Mount Olive.
You really did your background, Mike. Yes, I did.
I professionally stalk. I admit that. Yeah.
I was a travel softball coach for 12U through 16U girls travel softball. My daughter was a softball pitcher, and so I coached her team. I was the head coach on her team for all those years that she was playing. And I have to say, I loved it. I was a avid baseball softball player my whole life, and really enjoyed working with the girls and just the strategy and the competitiveness, and it was a lot of fun. The parents were always more of a headache than the kids were.
And I will tell you that much right now. The worst thing about little league sports are the parents who either complain about their kid not playing, complain to the umpire, who's usually a 17-year-old in high school that gets $10 a game, or they complain about the coaches, and then you ask them, so when are you going to volunteer to coach? Oh, I don't have the time for that. Then I'm like, shut up. Because we're volunteering, we're trying. So just zip it, pal. All right. Or get down here and coach next season.
Or the politics. I mean, why aren't you playing my daughter? And it was, but in all, I mean, I loved working with the girls. It was a great experience. And my daughter really got a lot out of it as well, too.
And
she was
good.
She was a pitcher, and I used to always tell her I always admire how poised she was. Bases loaded, 3-2 count. Yeah. And she managed to battle out of it.
And I coached my boys growing up in baseball and basketball, and almost to any age, even to your daughter's age when she was 16. For most of the kids, it's about confidence. They do it once. It's like, oh, wait, I can do this. And that changes everything.
Oh, yeah. We always were really proponents of having our kids very involved in sports and extracurricular activities. They've grown up to be wonderful contributing members. And a lot of that, I think, is just they always had things to do, and they weren't sitting around bored and getting into trouble. And not that they didn't get in some trouble, but
yeah, they're kids.
Yeah.
All right. So you are a first on the show, I believe. You are a state tennis champion.
An amateur state tennis champion.
No, Suzanne, it's my story. Golly, my wife does that every time I give her a compliment. She points out the negative or the whatever point I did not emphasize. It's my story. You're a state tennis champion. Who cares if you didn't make $1 million? Nobody does. But it's USTA 3.0. As a former USTA tennis player, I was a division winner in Atlanta way back when. So to be state champion, I tip my hat, young lady. Well done.
We went to the regionals. So we did the state championship, and then we went to the regionals in Rome, Georgia. We won the regionals there as well. I mean, it was a great experience. And I have to say, it's one of the great things that I've loved since I moved down here. I was not a tennis player before moving down here. And softball and tennis are very complementary sports. And so it's really nice to kind of, meld the two together. And I just love playing tennis. And so I'm on a few different teams. But yeah, that was a great experience, a great group of women. I've made a lot of great friends through tennis.
Oh, yeah. Now, later on today, when you tell Dave you're on the best podcast, your best show you've ever been on, here's my tip to him as a husband. If he really, really wants to brag about his wife and shut somebody up, just say, hey, my wife's a state tennis champion. What's your wife done lately? All right. So
I appreciate that.
Just passing on that nugget. Yep. Yep.
It is. It's a lot of hard work. Do you still play?
No, my back decided my career's over. So, but I enjoyed it.
Well, I'm hoping my back and my
Yeah.
yeah, my back holds out. Yeah.
I enjoyed a run from 13 to 50, so it was a lot of fun along the way. But
Hmm.
I'm with you. It's a great sport, great exercise. I enjoy doubles more than singles because I love the teamwork.
I have to say I do too. I really was more of a singles player, and then I sprained my ankle playing softball this past summer, and so I ended up playing a lot more doubles.
Mm.
And I agree with you. I love the camaraderie of the doubles, the strategy. I am starting to get back into playing singles. I think they're two completely different games.
They are.
Um, and yeah, you really have to kind of have a mindset for singles, and
Now,
it's a lot of work.
oh, yeah. Now, did you sprain your ankle? Here's my story. Just nod your head, okay? You sprained your ankle sliding into home. You were safe to win the game, right?
Almost, yes.
Where did I go wrong, Suzanne?
I was sliding into second base. I had sprained it earlier in the season, running through first base. I hit the bag wrong, and then it healed. And then I slid into second base, and then when I went into the outfield to run after a ball, my ankle just buckled on me. So
Ooh.
it's getting better now though. So I'm hoping to get. I'm actually supposed to play in a co-ed league this spring, so hopefully
Oh,
it'll
nice.
be better. Mhm.
Did you take out the shortstop on the relay throw for the double play?
That with my metal spikes and all that.
There you go. Left foot right up. Yeah, so they were throwing. So one more thing back to your adjunct professor days.
Mhm.
There were 7 reviews about you as a professor. Did you know that? On Rate
I
My Professor.
I did not know that.
Yes. 4 of them
Oh,
were said they were clicked the awesome category, and 3 of them clicked the great category.
oh, well, thanks for letting me know that.
So in my mind, 7 for 7. That's good stuff. So I
I'll have to go read that.
yeah, please do. It's a lot of fun because I have see, I got 6 nieces and nephews, and 2 of them are still in school, and even a couple of them
Mhm.
that graduated. We've had that conversation before that you can go online and rate your professor. It's like, "Ooh, is that a good idea?"
Well, it is always nice because, going back to the digital world, is we tend to do reviews when we're not
Yes.
happy.
Yes.
So I always think it's good, and as a business owner, whenever you have a happy client, make sure you're really leveraging that Google Business Profile and you're sending them that link to give you a review. Not only does it give credibility to your business, but it also helps move you up in the search process. The
Mhm.
more reviews that you have, especially the positive ones, Google really likes to index. It's an indexing factor in Google search algorithm. So it's always important, not just when you're upset with something, but when you're happy with a service.
You're right. We'll bitch about something in 2 seconds, but we'll compliment a week later. That's for
Hmm.
sure.
Yep.
All right, so somebody who was listening or watching today is gonna think, "You know what? I'm gonna do my own website." What's the first thing they should do?
The first thing that they should do is register their domain name. So figuring out first of all is to search and make sure it's available. So if you have a new business, you're coming up with a name, make sure that that domain is available because there's nothing worse than coming up with a great business name and then having to have a different address for your URL. I mean, sometimes it's a strategy to have a different address, but you at least want to,
Mhm.
your email address, like Suzanne at MRN Web Designs. You want to make sure that that domain is available.
And
Second thing,
GoDaddy real quick, GoDaddy, what are some other places they could go to check that?
so I actually like to reserve on Google domains. Very
Amnon does too,
inexpensive,
yes.
very inexpensive. I think it's like $12 a domain. And really very important for anybody who's starting out, though, make sure that you, as the business owner, personally reserve that domain. Do not have a company do it for you. Do not have a digital marketing company. Do not have a web designer reserve that domain. You do it yourself so that you always own it. That's your real estate, that's your brand, that's your identity. And you don't ever want it to get lost in a shuffle if you're not happy with your current company.
Now, Suzanne, I can tell when a very popular subject comes up because Amnon's sitting across from me and he pulls his microphone down because you said something that made him want to talk. So here he comes.
Suzanne, there's one thing here. My daughter, who's a graduate student now, wanted to do her own thing also. And she came and she asked me, she said, Dad, can you register this domain for me? But I want to know that there's no company like that. Because sometimes there will be a company with that name somewhere in the States,
Mhm.
and you register the domain, and it just opens the door to litigation later on.
Absolutely. Yeah. So if you go to Google Domains, you can actually search whether that domain is available or not. And then as soon as you know it's available,
Right.
it's $12 a year.
Yep.
I often reserve different iterations of the name, or if it's a hard name to spell, or if somebody can, like I have MRN Web Design with an S and without an S, it doesn't hurt to reserve iterations of it as well.
You mean something like Jeska, right?
Yeah.
But
Correct.
but that
Yes.
is important because keystroke wrong, they could go somewhere else and, they can remember to come back to you or anything like that, but that's a good thought is to grab the iterations of that. But
I mean, and even if you're not going to build a website today,
Mhm.
but you have a domain that may be of interest to somebody else, make sure you reserve it. You don't have to build a website on it right away, but make sure that you do reserve that. And in addition to not only the domain, make sure that whoever you have that's building your website, that once they finish building it, that you own that website. We've helped a couple of clients recently who were using a company that did, paid ads, SEO, but they have kept their website hostage. They won't release their website to them. So they've already invested in a website, but because I don't know if it was in the contract or what happened, we basically have to rebuild their whole website again. My business philosophy and practice is if we build a website for you and once it's fully paid, you own that asset. You can, keep it with us to host it and maintain it. Or if you want to take it somewhere else, we'll zip up the files and send it with you. But it's really important that you own your domain and your website contents.
Good stuff. All right, Suzanne, where can they go? Speaking of websites, where can they go to find more about you?
They can go to mrnwebdesigns with an s.com. And we're happy to do a complimentary consultation with you. If you just want to ask some questions, you can schedule either a phone call or you can meet us here in my office over off of Western Parkway at Center Green in Cary.
All right, folks, here's a digital expert, tennis state champion. Why else would you hire anyone else to build your website? Right, Suzanne? I mean, come on.
I really appreciate that, Mike. Well, and our tagline is we don't just build websites, we help build businesses, because that's really, it's not just about the technical building of the website. We really want to help business owners grow and be successful.
Well, good. And it's been a nice run. I think it's going to work out. You're 16 years into it, so I get the feeling you're doing something pretty right.
Yes.
I'm sure Dave likes it too, right?
And I love it because the technology keeps changing. Google loves to keep us on our toes, so it's never boring.
Yeah, just during this show, something changed that you'll find out about in about an hour with an email, right? But Suzanne, this has been a lot of fun. Good luck to the new year. And you got kids out of college, 2 out of college, one in high school, just all over the place.
The youngest is now in college. Dave and I are almost empty nesters, Mike.
All right. Which is why you have a dog, right?
Exactly. A COVID puppy.
There you go. So anyways, we've enjoyed having you on the show, folks. MRNwebdesigns.com. Get some more information. It's not hard to do with your website, but it's tricky enough to do it the right way where you need experts like Suzanne. We put her phone number up on the screen throughout the show. Also go to her website. I know she'll be able to help you, Suzanne. Good luck in 2022.
Thanks so much for having me, Mike.
And we'll see everybody next time on Triangle BNI.
You are tuned to the Nissan Communications Network. If you tuned in too late, you can always watch each program in its entirety or download an MP3 audio file of it in the archives section at nissancommunications.com. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel, follow us on Twitter, and like us on Facebook. Sponsored by StreamingGear.com, Carolina Apparel, and DeltaForce.net.